welcome to a webinar on LinkedIn about the advantages of outsourcing your payroll to PaySpace. Just a couple of house rules. So there won't be any mics or cameras, but I think it's by default. Please, if you've got questions during the session, do type them for us in the Q&A. We've got moderators that will be answering them, and we'll maybe pick up one or two during the session, but looking forward to it. So today we'll be talking about what is outsourcing then and now, what value does the outsourcing offer, and I think that's a very good concept and a very good point. Common misconceptions about outsourcing. I think everybody's always talking about saving of money, responsibility, etc. Measure the outsource model. How are we actually measuring that? And I want to say, in the final sort of PaySpace, the value added service of what we offer. So I'm going to pass on to my colleague, Sandra, that will be sort of handling the rest of the presentation. I'm just going to pass it over to her.
Good morning, everybody. I hope you're warm and well.
And just a second while it goes across. Super.
Good morning, everybody. Hope you're well. Thank you for making the time to join today's session, and I hope you find it as informative as you were hoping for it to be. So how we're going to start off, we're going to kick off straight into it, what we traditionally know as outsourcing, what it was then and what it is now. When a company selects a third-party company to manage their payroll processes, that's outsourcing. That's what we know it as. The business contracts with the company contracts with a business partner, as opposed to in-house management, where the business has a dedicated team that's involved in and responsible for calculating employee salaries, deductions, tax obligations. Traditionally, that focused on making your everyday operations cheaper and funding that transformation with the support of specialists. But then the technological landscape changed and cloud hit. Cloud revolution hit hard. So in efforts to stay agile and responsive, business and technology leaders doubled down on transformation. But because of limited budgets, they diverted from spending on everyday operations as they normally would. And as a result, outsourcing. So outsourcing partners like PaySpace began to build new and innovative business models. So businesses then adopted the outsourcing strategy, and they used this to leverage the various partnerships and platforms for their own growth. And that is the business strategy that top companies and top businesses are using now. I'm not sure who it was, but I saw it on LinkedIn, and there was a saying that said, people at the top collaborate and at the bottom they compete. And I think collaboration is the foundation of outsourcing. But we are wary as not everybody is successful. The market is not full of successful outsourcing players. Not all were fortunate enough to withstand the turbulence of COVID-19, resilient enough to preserve the governance and the legislative changes that came with that, and still produce an innovative breakthrough industry-wide. Not many companies can say that they walk away with Consultant of the Year or Innovation of the Year awards, right? So outsourcing proves to be a transformational strategy when you're outsourcing to the right partner. So that being said, what is successful outsourcing? If we look at outsourcing, it's cyclical, it's ever evolving, as it should be. So we're in a cloud-based era, an AI era, where outsourcing looks at how existing technology can be optimized to innovate and make space for new and exciting features. So business processes look at Power Automate, API, seamless integrations for plug-and-play connectors. Power BI, analytics, dashboards, they're the new reporting Bibles. So something like communication over email is traditional. Communication portals like Cloudroom are embedded within PaySpace. So this gives you one centralized data storage room. More than 65% of traditional based payrolls and procedures have modernized practically and legislatively. So agility equals relevance. when new technologies emerge, businesses that can integrate them into their existing infrastructure are the ones that will thrive. So when outsourcing is done right, you should and you will feel the relief of the administrative burdens. And that being said, how do you know you're with the right outsourcing provider? How do you know that that is the service provider for you? Our South African labor market is rich. We have skilled resources. But that being said, our hacker market is also quite skilled, right? So then you got to be careful. You got to make sure that your IT infrastructure is internationally bulletproof for both parties, not just one. Be clear about the expected deliverables. In an outsourcing environment, ad hoc billables, we know, are a common nuance. So you need to worry about interim runs, additional reports, customized GLs. Am I going to pay both for that? Or am I not? Concentrate on the development of the company. Ask for a technical demonstration. Review the company's roadmap. If a company owns their software, they will determine their roadmap. Pinpoint the outsourcing model that suits your business needs. Similarly to when we pay a worker, generally it's a reflection of their education, their experience, and their work. It's the quality. So when you are looking for an outsourcing provider, you don't have to splurge, but don't skimp too much either. You pay what you get what you pay for, right? So sacrificing quality to save costs, it can be an expensive lesson. I think SPAR last month, it was in June, they lost 786 million in a botched software implementation. So those can be expensive lessons. When we look at what outsourcing has to offer, so your common denominators, cost savings, enhanced accuracy, time saving, and access to technology and expertise. So I'm going to speak to these 4 points a little bit. I'm going to try not to delve too deep, but I'm going to give you the basic benefits of these 4 points. So when we look at cost savings, naturally, it reduces the need for specialized in-house staff. So you can eliminate the costs associated with hiring, training, retention. You have the ability to achieve economies of scale, and that for me is a big one. Because when you have economies of scale, this enables PaySpace to offer our services to you at a lower cost compared to maintaining an in-house department. So we can also speak to a sliding scale on our fee structure, increased number of payslips, decreased cost per price. As a business, you have less operating costs, office space, equipment costs, less admin, is more focused on your core functions. So outsourcing is an excellent solution to reduce the workload, redirect the focus to the essential aspects of your business, while streamlining your core process and optimizing products and services. Then we have enhanced accuracy and compliance. If we ensure best practice and governance will follow. Speaking of governance, I'm sure everybody's aware of the SIC code updates in South Africa. And speaking to best payroll practice, I'm not sure if all of you were able to join us in the Rob Cooper seminar that we had, where he spoke to not so much the changes in the management of travel-related issues and payroll taxes, but how best to process them on your payroll. So it's situations like that where best payroll practice and governance comes into play, but you have a dedicated account manager that handles all of that for you. The burden of that stress, the change behind that, explaining that to your staff. Your outsourcing account manager takes care of that. With enhanced accuracy and compliance, we have legislative frameworks, which can be complex and ever-changing, especially in your French West African countries. They change almost 12th hourly. And this is managed by experts who stay up to date with the latest laws and regulations. This minimizes the risk of error, penalties, non-compliance, and that can be costly for businesses. Something as simple in the South African landscape is knowing when to submit your EMP 501, whether it's biannual or annual, because we as payroll consultants, we know that SARS is never ready at that minute when tax season opens. So it's things like knowing when SARS has updated their latest version, knowing when's the right time before you just dive into it and submit, because then you need to resubmit. Time savings, particularly for small and medium-sized businesses with limited resources. So that speaks to the fact that outsourcing is not only for large companies, it's also for small and medium-sized businesses, especially with limited resources. It frees up that time where they can focus on the core business activities such as the strategy, employee wellness and employee development, customer service, new products and services. It also reduces the burden of administrative tasks, which allow businesses to streamline their other operations and increase overall productivity. Scalability is a big one. Scalability allows you to expand your business offering, as well as not place so much of reliance and dependency on either one individual or one team. If we look at school holidays, for example, most single home parents, double home parents, they want to go on holidays with their kids. They want to take a break. And that aids the business continuity process internally, the scalability for your business to be able to open up and say, we don't have to block out any leave calendars. That can enhance your employee offering because most companies have that blackout period. And that seems to work well in the landscape we're in. Access to technology and expertise, sophisticated payroll software and systems that automate calculations, generate reports, provide secure data storage. This is what we speak to when we say access to technology. Technology is ever evolving, and so is the world we live in. If we're not going to stay agile, we're not going to be responsive, we're not going to thrive in this business. Experienced professionals who are knowledgeable about tax laws and regulations, ensuring accurate processing and reporting with a cutting-edge technology and expert guidance, investing in costly infrastructure. Outsourcing offers immediate access to the same level of expertise, but at a much lower cost. There's no time wasted on recruitment, onboarding, training, phoning for legal help, asking for payroll expertise in any other department. When you have a dedicated account manager, anything that could be technical related, support related, compliance related, training, learning, and development, all of that is homed inside of PaySpace. So your account manager not only has the support of their team, but they're sitting on a foundation of support as well that bolsters the department, that bolsters the company. You will never have a situation where you need to reach out in addition to PaySpace or in addition to your outsourcing service. Another important slide that I thought we could go through was common misconceptions. So what are the pros and cons that a company would think of, whether to outsource, not to outsource? So what are the common thoughts that would go through your head? And as you can see, there are a host of them. I'm going to pick out a few and speak to a few. Naturally, time permitting, I can't go through all, but one of the important ones that stands out for most companies is loss of control. So when you outsource your payroll, with the PaySpace security role configurations that we have, it is so customized that you will never lose control of your payroll data. You own that data, it's yours. But we do have the ability to let you read only, so no editing. You can have super user rights where you can edit completely, or you can just not see it at all. So you will never lose control of your data. Your backups are yours. It's stored in the cloud. It's cloud-based, hosted in Microsoft Azure. You would not lose it. Another one that we can go through is only accessible to big companies. I think we touched on that earlier as well. It allows small businesses the opportunity to focus on their core competencies, to enhance efficiency and access expertise without the extensive enhancements in payroll infrastructure. If you look at our payroll outsourcing model at PaySpace, there's no alienation of small companies. If anything, some of our higher net promoter scores come from our small businesses because they have that individual attention still. Security and confidentiality concerns is a big one, especially with the dynamic GDPR POPIA compliant infrastructure that's built around our IT firewalls. So outsourcing raises concerns naturally about data security, confidentiality, but PaySpace has a proven track record of data protection and compliance with industry standards. We have our ISO 27001 certification, POPI compliant and GDPR compliant regarding our cloud settings, our cloud security, and our cloud computing. Another one we can look at is limited customization. Dev is the engine. Outsourcing services often don't come or they might come as standardized packages where they meet the needs of most businesses, but most businesses don't have the same solution all around. Different businesses require different solutions, and this requires customization to align with the unique payroll requirements of your business. So you need that desired flexibility to compromise, and it comes back to choosing the right outsourcing partner. You need to own your dev. Payspace owns their dev platform. We are the owners of our tech stack. When it comes to customizations, we have endless possibilities to customize and gear a company for their growth. Business continuity, we can pick that out as well. In terms of business continuity, we spoke to scalability, but what is the backup? If in this South African landscape, if Eskom has to go into power grid failure, what happens? We have a backup in the Azure EU West region for disaster recovery. So there's that. And those are the kinds of concerns or the common misconceptions that we have when deciding whether to outsource or not. With that, if you choose to outsource, how do you know if your outsourcing is successful? How do you know that you're getting value for money? How do you know that this is the outsourcing model that works for you? And this is not any more a myth than it is just a communication struggle, measuring the success of an outsourcing model. Is it value for money? So an SLA sets the baseline levels for the service you expect from your outsourcing partner. It needs to be responsive. It needs to be interactive enough to support customers at every stage of their growth journey. The cost of a non-performing SLA should not be underestimated. It can affect an organization's reputation, as well as employees significantly. Late salary payments, for example, can constitute a breach of employment. Similarly, delayed feedback to employees can adversely affect their employee experience, their engagement. The statutory payments not being made or being made incorrectly can also have consequences in the form of fines and penalties from regulators. Specific to outsourcing, though, when it comes to an outsourcing master service agreement or the service level agreement that drives your model, we're looking at response time to queries from the provider and from Payspace and the client. We're looking at the resolution time to the issues raised. We're looking at the timeliness of the criteria for each party, accuracy in the payroll. We talk delivery process, steps such as the salary calculation, the statutory submission, banking, payslips, reporting, especially reporting. Reporting is a big one because that's input equals output, and output is going to determine your analytics. So a typical SLA, from what we can see, measures the overall outcome achieved by the supplier. But simply evaluating the results will not always give you a true representation of the full experience of the client. Results don't necessarily mean experience. And that's where it gets a bit tricky. An SLA can often give you black and white stats, but is it telling you how does the employee and how does the employer and the business feel about this experience? How does it feel? And emotion is a hard one to track or to manage or to measure. So at Payspace, we believe that the experience should be measured by the work and effort undertaken to achieve reach the agreed objectives. And these measures can take many forms, but they include the quality and timeliness of the data input, hence the onset focus on the bespoke framework per customer requirement. We can use Excel input templates or we can use APIs, but depending on what your chosen outsource model is and what works for you, that's how we measure the quality and timeliness of data input. Something like the number of draft reviews before final approval. So how much effort did it take to get to that final step? The number of repeat inquiries on the same item. We start picking up trends, we start picking up patterns. Are there many ESS employee queries? Is the queries on overtime, or is it on the standby allowance? Is it on commission earnings? Is it on taxation? So we pick up these trends and these queries, and we also try and transfer that knowledge back into the business. Time taken to resolve queries, so our feedback time, our response time, as well as the response time from the customer when a query is raised. These items of service governance is critical to managing and monitoring performance of the SLA. These can be established mechanisms for the delivery of the performance standard, periodic reviews between PaySpace and the customer, penalty and reward for meeting or not meeting agreed standards, for example, service credits, financial penalties, operational remedies to adjust processes and procedures to better suit the business requirement. So what does outsourcing offer? In addition to governing the client-provider relationship with a clear and measurable approach, a robust SLA provides insights on the company's performance indicators, demonstrating opportunities for your company to pursue improvements with the service provider and within your own organization, refocusing those energies and allowing you to zone in on what needs a little bit more attention and just a push to drive it forward. So we can zone in on those trends, we can zone in on those patterns for you via these SLA reviews that can happen at your accord. So what I do have slides of, this is our Cloudroom module. It's our communication portal that's embedded into PaySpace, and this is the communication between the business and the customer. So let's take your annual audit, for example. When you have your auditors over, there's no time that's wasted, for lack of a better word, or expensed on having your auditors at the office, whether it's your IT auditors or your financial auditors. There's no need for that because in our Cloudroom portal, you see everything, every communication, every report, every attachment, every approval that has gone between PaySpace and the customer. That's all here. So if you leave your auditor in Cloudroom, that's everything they will ever need, from prelim reports to approval reports to statutory reports to the 28th of Feb leave balance reports. All of it is in here. You don't need to physically sit there and hand information to them. And that's another cost-saving benefit. So our Cloudroom ties into our ticketing system, which is Zoho. And this is a little snippet of our ticketing system and how it works. Here you can see that we have graphs that tell you how many tickets were received per person per day. You can even have it per hour. What is the busiest period of this payroll? How long was the response time? How many tickets were fed back as incorrect input? How many had payroll processing errors? All of those stats are applicable on our report systems that we feed back to you on in terms of the health of the payroll and in terms of the overall experience that you're going through from your outsourcing model. This is another Zoho stats, which tells you the traffic in a day or the traffic over a week. What is the busiest period? First response time, resolution time, happiness rating. So these are black and white stats that can measure the emotion as well as the experience. I thought I'd just add in a few of our value-added services from the outsourcing perspective, because often the question is, why would we outsource? It's just one part of the function. We do, however, offer the monthly EMP 201 submissions to SARS. That's your monthly Revenue Authority payment in the South African landscape. We have the EMP 501 submissions that we can process for you as well. Additional payment requests on the e-filing platform. Our outsourcing department does host very experienced tax technicians that can assist in these areas. So we have ITA 88 submissions, payment allocations, directives for retrenchments and share schemes, because generally especially in a small business landscape, you don't have the accountants with specialized skill. So you outsource that, but you can outsource it to your outsourcing, PaySpace outsourcing. We can request tax numbers if the employee has not been employed before, tax clearance certificates, deferred payments, verification letters for COIDA, and additional services for tax authorities. That's in the rest of Africa. That have an online portal presence. And I think at the end, just to end it, we can say that more than 80% of your business overhead costs are in respect of payroll. And that includes employee benefits, taxes, compliance, analytics. That's your report output. So at the end of the day, you're going to ask yourself, can I risk the mismanagement of more than 80% of my overhead costs? Because outsourcing done right can only maximize your competitive edge. And that is it from our outsourcing webinar. I'm going to hand over back to our speaker.
Thank you so much, Larissa. I think it was wonderful and very insightful. And thank you for the questions. If we didn't get back to you, we'll definitely address it through an email. Enjoy your day.